Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Tracey Jones. Thanks for joining us on our Functions of Followership podcast. Have you ever said to yourself, hey, what's in it for me? This is a tough one. We've all said this. And so much of the time, the only time we really dig in and deliver something is with the expectation that we get an increase in pay, promotion, job title, or money. But is that really what life is about? So today we're going to explore the fourth function of followership, which is give to get. I hope you'll join us.
You're listening to Tremendous Leadership with Dr. Tracey Jones.
Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Tracey Jones, and welcome to our fourth series in the Function of Followership podcast. And this one is titled Give to Get. Now, you've heard it said before that the only way to change the world is to first change yourself. And the older I get and more evolved as a leader and follower I become, I realize this is the absolute truth. So this function, this give to get, this also law of leadership really dials into the heart of leadership and the heart of serving. So you've heard all about servant leadership. It's a beautiful thing. All right. Did you know, though, there's also servant followership because you're both in the entity together working for a common goal. So you both have to have this shared heart of servitude. All right. So the greatest commandment that they say in the Bible is to love your neighbor and love the Lord. All right. The greatest commandment in the world is love. All right. Love, all of humanity is supposed to be one big love story. And as somebody who recently got married, yeah, it's all about love, baby, love, faith, hope. The greatest of these is love. All right. And you're sitting there saying, Tracey, this is the workplace. There's no place for love. And I'm here to tell you, it's not about loving in some of the ways you may think, but having the heart of love. And what that means when you have a heart of love is that you have this heart of servitude and obedience. And that means not just in the leadership role, but absolutely in the followership roles. Because when you have this sense of obedience, no matter what role you're in, you're going to really evolve as a follower and you're really going to be spectacular as a leader. So give to get, a lot of people will say, well, I'm only going to give something if I get something in return. And that is really unevolved. That's really the lowest form of leadership and followership. You want to give to get something. You're simply then trading. I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to transact and I'm going to get something in return. We give to get because when we give, out of that, we get a greater capacity to give. And my father talked about that in his law of leadership. If all I'm doing is giving with the expectation of return, that's really trading. And we all come into life and leave life with nothing. So in the years in between, we're really just taking our talents, our gifts, our resources that have been given to us, and we're pouring them out into other people and other organizations. That's the truest form of being the most effective follower and truest form of a leader. So if you're really just giving something to get something in return, that's really like the carrot and the stick. That's like old school worker follower stuff. If I do something, I won't get whacked with the stick, or I'm only going to show up and deliver results if you give me a bonus. I once had an employee that when they didn't get a bonus, turned around and really did some awful things because they felt that they were owed the bonus. It was purely transactional and they did not really care about the needs of the mission. Okay. So sacrificial serving or giving to give is really about giving without the expectation of getting anything in return. And let me tell you something. This is so important to learn as a follower because those of us that have been in a leadership role, we know oftentimes we give and we give and we give and we give and all we get back in return is heartaches, problems, misery, lawsuits, death, you name it. All right. But that doesn't mean we don't stop serving because the more you learn to give, just to give, the greater your capacity is going to be to give. And that's the most important thing. So my father always said to me, if you're able to give and produce confidently without this mentality of, well, I'm not going to get something back, you'll be able to just keep living from a place of abundance. And the one thing that you can never lose, we can lose our health, we can lose our jobs, we can lose our relationships, but we will never lose our capacity to give. And so that's why this is one of the most important functions of all, because there are going to be times, folks, when all you have left is your capacity to give. So if you only work at a job 8 to 5 and then go home and say, that's not my company, you're just really transacting time for money. And my father always told me growing up, Tracey, You can either work for yourself or you can work for somebody else. As long as you work for somebody else, you're never really going to feel like you are a part of the mission. What he meant was, even though my father, before he started his own business, he worked for somebody else. But you know what? He worked like he owned that company. He gave everything he had, because that's what you do when you're the highest form of a follower and a leader. You pour in, you're subservient, you're obedient to making the organization the best that you can. So even if you only get heartache, some problems in return, you still give, because that teaches you to be a giver in the truest sense. So basically, I've dealt with a lot of contractors and subcontractors. We are all contractors in our own lives. And when we intrinsically work to just pour out and give more, that is the surest way to build the strongest foundation in our life. And so one of the laws of leadership and one of the functions of followership is all about growing and serving with a joyful heart. And I mean, even if you don't get something in return, don't give and have a chip on your shoulder, okay? You want to give with a willful spirit of giving, with a willful spirit of joy. Because if you can't do it with joy, don't do it at all. I watch a lot of people that'll say, yeah, I'll do it. And then they'll begrudgingly do it. That's not true giving, okay? Don't bother doing it if you're going to be irritated about it or you're going to complain about it. You give to give, because out of giving, you get a greater capacity to give. So I want to tell you a little bit of story that I heard once. It's called The Sheep Thief. And we have a wonderful book, and we'll put a link to it on here. And it's called The Sheep Thief. All right. And many years ago, over in a town in Italy, there were two young boys, and they decided to steal a sheep. Okay, that did not belong to them, and sheep were very valuable, and so this is also a crime. So the two boys got caught, and one of their punishments was they would have the words ST branded on their forehead, which stood for sheep thief. Well, the one young man was so embarrassed, he ran away, he wandered, he kept going from town to town. People would ask him what it was, and he just became so bittered and lost and alone. He just extricated himself from society and died alone. The other young man that had ST on his forehead thought to himself, you know what? I made a mistake, but I'm going to give and I'm going to pour back. And he worked hard and he earned money to pay the individual farmer back for the sheep. And then he stayed in that community and he built a business, and he built a business that paid for people to get jobs. And he just kept pouring back into the community. Well, one day a visitor came through the town and he saw this older gentleman and he noticed the mark on his head. And he said to the shop owner, he said, "What does that mean on that old man's head?" And the shopkeeper thought for a moment, and he said to him, "It stands for saint." All right. So no matter what we've done, life is all about the capacity to give back, whether we get anything or not, because sometimes you're going to get stuff and sometimes you're not. This function is all about the parable of sowing and not just reaping in the harvest. So Ziglar has one of my favorite quotes, and he says, the best way to get what you want is to help enough other people get what they want. So I hope in this fourth function of followership, you learn that giving to get is really just about getting a greater capacity to give. Because I want you to remember, if serving is below you, leadership is way beyond your capability. So thanks so much for listening to this wonderful little thing. Giving to get is really about the emotional side of leadership, the EQ. And when you give just to give, you're going to get a greater sense of compassion, a greater sense of empathy, and that is one of the most valuable things that a leader can bring to the table. Leadership needs to have a heart, so does followership. So if you like what you heard today, please leave us a comment. We answer all our comments. Leave us a 5-star rating. We'd be honored with that. Also, sign up for our e-newsletter at tremendousleadership.com. We got free books, free ebooks, free webinars, all kind of tremendous stuff. And also reach out to me directly if you'd like to learn more about this fourth function of follower, give to get, work with you one-on-one or with your tremendous organization.
Thank you for listening to Tremendous Leadership with Dr. Tracey Jones. Find out more about Dr. Jones at www.tremendousleadership.com. If you've been ignited by something you heard in this episode, let us know by leaving a review for Tremendous Leadership wherever you listen to podcasts, or by sending us a message through www.tremendousleadership.com.